we're going to cut it very fine. There's lives in my plane. I'm responsible for that.
People haven't done this before.
We don't know if it's going to work. Do you acknowledge the risk? I think sometimes the worst decision is to make no decision.
The pack themselves were very wild, the road network's very poor. The advantage that we did have on our side was that we knew where the den site was.
Knowing what you're busy with and knowing what I can do to assist without standing there saying, what can I do, what can I do, what can I do? It comes down to that concept of like mental load and like removing some of that mental load from each other as a team.
You want the wind to blow in like that.
Yeah. So from a chopper perspective, we'd push them down this ridge, get them speed, and then suddenly turn them at the last second.
Yeah. And it will probably help if they do see this net, because if they come down here and they see the net, they're going to break into the boma.
The bend go up.
They'll see this net and that's the theory.
We're here just outside Maputo National Park, where we are setting up to capture a pack of wild dogs that crossed about 2 years ago from Tembe Elephant Park in South Africa, not far, about 15 km from where we are.
The next curveball came that they actually started denning in the Futi corridor, which is something we've never had to really deal with before.
Wild dogs are an endangered species. Several of the adults have been victims of snaring, and so if this keeps going, the pack will eventually disappear.
We either intervene and we save this pack, or we acknowledge that they've gone into a bad area, there's not much we can do, and we leave them to go. Then that's the decision we've made, is not to intervene.
What a really difficult conversation to have is we've never actually caught a pack like this with pups this big and relocated them this kind of distance before. We really needed to act and ideally get them into a better system.
So we identified a good area to release them in Gorongosa National Park, where there's an established wild dog population already. It's a safe habitat, lots of prey. The plan is to leave the pups in that den and hopefully they'll settle around there.
Taking pups, which we had never handled before, going to a den which we had never trialed before. We don't know if it's going to work. Do you acknowledge the risk? The danger is when you can't decide and you go back and forth and people then get scared to move forward on something.
It's much safer to take the pups out without the mom there.
If we could just somehow push them away, the adults away from the den, we'd have a good opportunity to try to capture them.
So the nets are all set up and the helicopter's just taken off. So they're gonna go find the dogs, push them for about 3 to 4 kilometers, and then hopefully get them into our nets where we'll be able to sedate them.
6 or 7 pups.
I don't know if Cole wants me to talk about the pup stuff yet until we get them.
So there's 5 adults and 6 or 7 pups coming with.
What's our plan? Let's see what happens.
So So they've located the pack and they were able to flush them out of the den site, and initially the pups followed in suit. And unfortunately the pups are very small, so it's not going to be easy for them to keep up with the adults for the distance we need to move the adults in order to tire them out and properly get them into the nets. So the pups have luckily backed off a little bit and they've gone back to the den, and we'll continue moving the 5 adults towards the nets now.
Leave him, he's done.
Sorry, I was also drawing.
Ah, you were.
No, you good, you good.
What do you do?
Okay, good now.
Give them sun then. And then I think it's good.
As soon as we had them stabilized at the main capture site, then myself, Olivia and Brian from Peace Box went back to the den. We found one hole, there's nothing there.
What's that? I can this Sandy, sir, I doubt that these holes are connected. The main one is connected. There's a main one there. Because when they came out, they were all here this morning when we flew over.
Big stress at this point was, where are these pups gone? We've now chased these adults away. There's no stopping now. We've committed to this operation. There was a 7 or 8 meter tunnel that just kept going further and further underground. We were almost at a point where we weren't, I think, expecting to see pups, and we didn't really know what to do with them. You know, people haven't done this before. And next thing, there's this like nose of a pup sticking out there. All these pups had gathered there. Olivia was helping Brian like with removing some of the sand, and all of a sudden I just heard this squealing. But then at this point, all of the pups just ran right past him, and this is where like the games began, because the pups were going off in every direction. What if we can't capture all these pups? The team did some heroic diving and holding of the dogs. Now we had them safely in a nice crate and they were all huddled together. This is where the epic journey began.
Huddled very nicely together. This male we're going to have to be quite careful with. The alpha male. He's still very zonked, so that when it comes to flying, we're going to
He was pushed hard yesterday.
He was.
Yeah. Is he just still a bit down there?
He's was lying flat, and then I was like, geez, is he fine? And then he put himself back on his chest.
Okay.
But I think there's always one, and I think he's the one that we need to be careful of.
We're on our way to the airstrip where we are then immobilize the dogs again, load the pups onto the plane, and be on our way. But then we had more drama where the trailer actually broke down on the way to the airstrip. The pilot at this point was very worried about the timing of it all.
It's sunset, and their sunset is 5:15, so it means they're going to say to us, home. No way of entering that.
Even a lit airstrip or something.
Even if we veer offline, we can't.
Yeah.
I mean, that plane doesn't have the instrumentation to
I see. And if, let's just say we hustle now and leave now.
Look, we've got, like I said, so you're going to load the dogs. We've got about 5 to 10 minutes to warm up. Then we get airborne. If they don't hassle us, then fine, we're going to fly straight. But then it's 3 hours to Zanaf with the headwind that we've got.
To refuel. Yeah.
Then when we get to Zanaf, we've got to land. Then we've got to refuel. Refuel takes around about an hour at most. And then from there, then it's airborne again, and another hour and a half to get to Gorongosa.
Yeah.
So, I mean, on the maps, sun is setting at 5:30. We're going to cut it very fine. So we're going to have to make a call somewhere. I can't make a call up there and then be like, oh, we'll go there or there. There's lives in my plane. I'm responsible for that. Or we stay here with the dogs, and then tomorrow morning, super early, we're going to have to hoof it.
No, we can't do that for the dogs, yeah.
Even getting to the nav and waking them up and knocking them down again, and we're going to start losing dogs.
Okay, this is worst case scenario then. So if we get airborne, go past Maputo, he says direct flight. So let's make the call. You guys make the call in flight.
Oh,
Do you think if we hustle now,
Yeah, let's hustle.
we might, but I mean, we're going to have to push it.
Okay, well, I think let's start pushing.
So, be if you're catching the pups. Louis, do you mind opening the closet? This one, and he just has an open wound there. You see? So one of the pups does have a wound. I think it's in like the shoulder area. It's not super deep, but it's like big. Might want to just do.
From
It might have been from the capture. I don't know. It's not something that any of us noticed or reported from the initial. But just thinking when we do handle them again to put them in the den.
Yes.
If you do have like some antibiotics or something.
When I'm part of something, I hold myself accountable. If this works, the pack actually have a chance to go into a system where there's other wild dogs, and and they can potentially flourish. And if this doesn't work, questions we're going to be asked.
We got in just before sunset. Our day 3 was essentially this long haul up to the den site. Throughout the journey we were checking every 2 hours the alpha male. We looked through the holes of the crate just to check on him, and we could see that he wasn't breathing. We quickly cut the rope, pulled the crate back to try pull him out to see if we could try revive him, but sadly he was already gone. We knew that these dogs had been through a lot, but we really just needed them to hang on for us a little bit longer. And unfortunately, it's capture, and capture myopathy is very real. It's a bit of a blow, that's for sure. We had planned this so carefully, and we knew that this release site and this den selection was so important. So we made the call to push on. We went and scouted this den, made sure there were no other animals living in there. We took the grass from the pups and pushed it down into the hole. We actually put the alpha female in the crate that she was in. We lifted the door up so she could watch this process as we were putting the pups into this hole.
I can tell you the cutest little thing in the world. It's fussy.
Once the pups were ready, we put a carcass nearby because we knew they'd be hungry. The adults were able to come out. They didn't go straight into the den, which I hoped they would. The best thing we could do then was just move off and actually leave them be. We anxiously started this 6-hour drive back, hoping that this female hadn't bombshelled 5 or 10 kilometers away with the adults and had ditched the pups.
So Tunakis has just messaged about the dogs in Gorongosa. And he just said, "Hi all, it's looking like the alpha females have just found a new den, and they've started hunting according to movements up and down to the new den."
Looks like our plan's working. The pups are alive and anchoring them there. We got the pack there as a whole safely, but you still hold on to the one you lose, I think. This intervention was a hard decision to begin with.
when you can call in, let's call it like a brains trust, and you can say to everybody like, guys, this is the situation we have. It makes those decision-making processes a lot easier.
If these dogs can do well, it's not just continuing to boost the numbers. The more safe space we can make for these dogs, the better chance they have of surviving as a species.